and one. Welcome back into TCM Pod. Chris Mathis, Spencer Mathis back here with you guys yet again as we kick off Week 15 of the NFL season. But before we get into what's to come in regards to our NFL picks for this week, any potential upsets, the latest on the Buccaneers and the fallout of, I don't know if I want to say fallout, but the descent of Derek Carr's NFL career, if he ever really had an ascend by any means, but he's not looking so hot there in New Orleans for the team that I thought was going to run away with the division. We'll get more into that here momentarily and our thoughts on Derek Carr too. But, leading off, an emphasis on leading off this show with Shohei Ohtani, who officially had come to an agreement with the Los Angeles Dodgers, signing a $700 million contract over 10 years. So everybody thought, okay, $70 million per year. Turns out that was not the case, as Jeff Passan reported on Monday that Ohtani's contract calls for him to be paid only $2 million a year for the next 10 seasons, with $680 million of that $700 million contract deferred until the end of the deal. So we're talking, 2034, somewhere in there. So unbelievable here that they were able to pull off this deal and work magic here with Shohei Ohtani. Great value for the Los Angeles Dodgers. I know Ohtani wants to win. He just spent some time with the LA Angels, never once made a playoff appearance, playoff berth with Mike Trout. This team will allow him to do so, and pushing that money to the tail end of his contract, I think also allows this team, the Dodgers, to continue to make more moves as if they need to make more there. The greedy get more greedy, and they add on a game-changing talent and a guy by the name of Shohei Ohtani.
Yeah, the move is bad for baseball for the MLB because you're paying Shohei Ohtani $2 million per year. The Dodgers already have basically unlimited cap space, and you saw that last year with their signings. It's only going to continue to get worse as the offseason goes on. They're going to continue to get more and more superstar players because $2 million is what you would pay normally your fifth outfielder, the guy that's not an everyday starter. That's his contract per year. So this guy in 10 years is only making $20 million. But then after he retires, $680 million comes his way. And I'm sure that won't even affect the Dodgers payroll in the future. But right now, at least for the next 10 years, this is the greatest deal of all time. And it sucks because it goes to a great Dodgers team who won the World Series back in 2020. They've been close to doing it a couple of years later as well in 2021, 2022. Last year, they didn't have the same fate. But again, Ohtani is going to put them over that edge. And then they're going to get at least one more great player. And he's going to get probably $20 million a year. And no one will even bat an eye because that's what he should have been paid. Ohtani, on the other hand, the most probably sought-after MLB player of all time going into free agency, aside from probably Barry Bonds back in the day that we didn't get to see. Ohtani's probably that right now. And for him to sign $700 million, everybody was freaking out. That's a lot of money. And then Jeff Passan tweets on Monday, like you said, and it was $2 million per year for $10 million. I just think that's a terrible idea for baseball. And another thing is he's still going to be just exposed to the West Coast because he was already with the Los Angeles Angels. Now he's with the Dodgers. So a lot of the people on the East Coast like us won't get to see him very often unless you're a Braves fan. Then if you're a Braves fan, that's a divisional matchup. So those tickets are going to be super expensive. So I just honestly, obviously, we didn't want Ohtani in the AL East. But for baseball, if he would have gone to Toronto, it would have been a much better thing in terms of keeping the league at least somewhat balanced.
Yeah, and again, talking about Shohei Ohtani's massive contract deal with the Los Angeles Dodgers. Not only do the greedy get more gritty, the rich get richer there with the Dodgers. And I'm not sure how they're going to work this out in terms of, room and seats and ticket prices there in that stadium. That place already sells out game in and game out. The tickets are already highly sought after. Then you add game-changing talent, once-in-a-lifetime talent by the name of Shohei Ohtani. Things are going to get crazy. And Dodger fans, any fan out there, not every fan out there, but, when you talk about fans on the West Coast and their teams, they're so passionate. It's already kind of crazy when you go to these games. So, it'll be interesting to see that shake out. I was in total disbelief when I saw that tweet and that report by Jeff Passan about the contract. I think I tweeted how, with like three question marks. How does that happen? And you guys can follow me at the Chris Mathis on Twitter, at L Savage Spence on Twitter, as well as we weigh in and we'll talk with you guys, communicate with you guys and your thoughts. Even though some of you guys are off the wall with some of your takes, we will talk back to you guys. But One thing I think that we can all agree on from this week, and really what was week 14, 15 now heading into week 15, but week 14 featured the Kansas City Chiefs and their game in which we saw a guy by the name of Kadarius Toney line up offsides on what was a huge play in which Travis Kelce pitched the ball back for a touchdown, would have taken the lead there against the Buffalo Bills in Arrowhead Stadium, but Kadarius Toney offsides. And when we saw Patrick Mahomes act the way that he did, and throughout the television broadcast for this game, I was trying to figure out who he was upset with, because you think, okay, wide receiver Kadarius Toney, it was his goof up. This guy has dropped so many passes this year, game in and game out, and he dropped passes with the Giants too. But the Chiefs thought they saw something with him and this trade that they made for him last season, and obviously has not panned out quite like they hoped it would. But I thought that Patrick Mahomes on the television broadcast there on CBS was chewing out Kadarius Toney. Turns out he was chewing out an official for the call, and then upset over the call, and that the official didn't give a heads up or a warning about, an offsides there on what was a game-changing play. But the way that Patrick Mahomes then carried that anger, that attitude into the post-game press conference baffled me as well. And I think it was crybaby-ish. I know he's one hell of a player, and a guy like that traditionally, just like LeBron James, just like Tom Brady, gets calls in their favor. But the way that he handled this and the way that something didn't go in his favor just did not look good to the naked eye. And I don't think it was a good look for Patrick Mahomes and his brand either.
Hey, man, you can't call that on such a good play. You should have waited for the play to end, and then you could have called the penalty if we didn't score. That could really affect Travis Kelce's that could affect his Hall of Fame resume, maybe. It could affect TikTok children who are trying to look for fun plays, and it affects the game.
That's obviously, Spencer, if you guys are watching here. I don't know if you guys would have been able to tell the difference unless you're watching the video, but that's Spencer here right on the YouTube side of things and Spotify video too. But yeah, I mean, that was ugly to see. And ultimately, you got to hold your teammate accountable too, especially if you're a team that's a playoff contender. And I know the Chiefs, their defense has looked really good this year, but the offense has not been as hot this season simply because of all the drops, the inconsistencies at wide receiver. And I think Travis Kelce is distracted by Taylor Swift a bit. His play is dropping off considerable amount. Now, he's good when he does make plays, but he's not making plays quite as often. You saw in that game against the Bills, him and Mahomes were off touch on a play or two, and you never see that with these two. These two will just come up with a play on the fly and some way, somehow complete the pass and take it the distance. But, to see Patrick Mahomes, who's MVP, won a Super Bowl before, has been in the Super Bowl many times, a guy who's broken so many records at his young age, not hold his teammate accountable. And I think a lot of people are missing this aspect, Spence, that Kadarius Toney is a nut. I mean, he's a hot-headed player. He's a diva wide receiver. We saw whenever the Giants traded him that he was going and shooting shots at the Giants and at fans that were in his DMs and telling them to pull up to his house, pull up, here's my address, you won't pull up. And I think that Patrick Mahomes, obviously, he is a smart guy. I think that he's aware of that and doesn't want to ruffle any feathers when he knows that the receiving core there in Kansas City is not very good as it is, much less if you were to take off, arguably, it sounds crazy to say, but you're number one, maybe number two wide receiver on the team.
Yeah, the receiving core is bad. Kadarius Toney has dropped so many passes. I mean, they're always on television, so anytime you turn on the game, I think it's basically due that Kadarius Toney will drop one pass or make a boneheaded play, and they traded a lot for him, of course. I think that punt return in the Super Bowl was really I think that justified the trade right there because it helped them win the Super Bowl last year. But, of course, I mean, I don't really know about it because the receiving core is terrible. The contested catch percentage of the Kansas City Chiefs wide receiving core is the worst in the NFL. It's like 10 of 54 this season. And Mahomes is a guy who's going to put it in space where the receiver's going to have to make a tough catch, and usually it's at the end of a game. And these guys just are not the guys to do it. Justin Watson hasn't been able to do it. And even, like you said, Travis Kelce hasn't been able to do it. Ever since he started dating Taylor Swift, of course, he's further into his NFL career than a lot of the guys on that team. He definitely gets a lot of off days instead of practicing. And I think a lot of that time is being delegated to Taylor Swift. And this could, in fact, be the last year of Travis Kelce's career. And obviously, for his sake, he probably wants to go out with a Super Bowl victory. But right now, I don't think they're very close to being a top 3 team in the AFC, especially with the Ravens, the powerhouse that they are right now. I think the Buffalo Bills, if they match up in the playoffs again, would beat them this time. I don't care how Josh Allen's played this year. I think as the season goes on, I think he's probably made for playoff football in terms of how he plays. And last year or 2 years ago, whenever that overtime game was, where Josh Allen took the lead, Mahomes goes down the field, they get a score, goes to overtime, Chiefs win the toss, they win the game. I think now if that game was to be replayed, and this is the reason they have this rule now, that both teams get a chance in the playoffs in overtime, if that game was to be replayed and the same exact things happen, same exact events happen, I think the Bills would come out with a victory this season. And I just don't think that the Chiefs are a top powerhouse in the AFC right now. Their defensive play is still playing pretty good, but it's fallen off a little bit from what it was at the beginning of the season. At the beginning of the season, they were stealing victories from that, and now it's really just kind of not enough to get the victories. And like you saw last week, 20-17 to the Buffalo Bills, they lost. So not sure about the Chiefs' balance this season and heading into next year, but they're going to have to get a good receiver in the draft. They're going to have to trade for somebody, and Mike Evans is becoming available at the end of this season. I hope the Bucs can re-sign him, but if they can't, he'd be a great fit in Kansas City.
Yeah, no doubt. I think that he would really push that team over their limit right now, over the top, and that would give not only Patrick Mahomes a deep threat down the field, which sounds crazy for a guy that's as big as Mike Evans is, but that's truly what he is as a player and what he offers, but also a guy who more than likely, is going to bring in that ball. And again, he's had 10 straight 1,000-yard seasons. He's a guy that's had 60 or more catches every year to start off his NFL career. First and only player to ever do that. And I think that would really push the Chiefs over the top there, over the edge, and would make them a true Super Bowl contender moving forward if they were able to find a way to reel in Mike Evans, obviously, and Patrick Mahomes. But a quarterback that we must talk about that really, unless you're in the NFC South division, is not getting talked about enough, and his fault so far this season is Derek Carr. I know it's year one with the New Orleans Saints, and he was trying to be that answer there at quarterback for the Saints following Drew Brees, the inconsistencies with Jameis Winston. Derek Carr has not been good whatsoever. This guy barely put up numbers, if you want to even call it that, a decent stat line against the lowly Carolina Panthers on Sunday in New Orleans. The thing is, they were at home in a hostile environment. The guy still struggles to perform. And on top of that, after every interception, I saw an interception where a ball was batted, a ball was tipped, and as soon as the ball was picked off, he's pointing that it was tipped. He didn't want people to know that it was his fault. He wanted them to think, hey, it was the fact that it was tipped. Just immediate reaction. No hesitation, no nothing. And then on top of that, the guy's just not putting up numbers. He's not really winning games for this team. He's not putting the ball in his hands. And I thought that Derek Carr was the answer that the Saints needed in terms of separating themselves, by 2 or 3 wins from the rest of the NFC South. But you look at it, Bucs 6-7, Atlanta Falcons 6-7, Saints 6-7. So they haven't done that. And I don't think that Derek Carr is that guy that I ever thought he was with the Raiders. I don't think he was ever phenomenal, but I thought he was a much better upgrade there at quarterback for the Saints. It could help this roster out tremendously. But honestly, I feel as if Derek Carr is holding this team back, and I'm not sure why they don't play a healthy Jameis Winston over a banged-up Derek Carr.
Yeah, the reason Derek Carr is doing that thing with the fingertips is because if you watch the Saints game, he's actively getting booed, or the offense is getting booed off the field 3 or 4 times a game, much like the Falcons with Desmond Ridder. But again, 13 touchdowns for him, 7 interceptions. They're on a 3-game losing streak. They were 6-4 just 3 weeks ago in Week 11. Now they're 6-7. They're tied for first place in the NFC South, but the Bucs hold that tiebreaker right now with their 3-1 division record. The Saints would be in third if you look at tiebreakers. Over the last 2 games, they were down by 20-something points to the Lions. He finished off with 226 passing yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, a pretty pedestrian stat line for a quarterback. And then last week, in the fourth quarter of that game with about 7 minutes remaining, Derek Carr had 48 passing yards, and they were, of course, defeating the Carolina Panthers because they're a bad team. Final score of that game being 28-6, but Carr threw 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. Basically, all of that came in the last 7 minutes of that game versus a very banged-up Panthers team. Only on 119 yards passing for him. The contracts by these quarterbacks, the veteran quarterbacks that they signed this year in the NFL free agency heading into the 2023 season, I thank the Buccaneers every day, because think of the Jimmy Garoppolo contract with the Las Vegas Raiders. Terrible. He's already gone. Derek Carr with the New Orleans Saints, 13 touchdowns, 7 interceptions is terrible production for what you paid the guy. Then you look over at Baker Mayfield, and he's having a statistical anomaly season in terms of his contract. $4 million for this guy. What is he, 20 touchdowns, 8 interceptions this year, a clean slate on Sunday, won the division for the Bucs or won a big division game for the Bucs to take the division with a couple of games left in the season. I think that's the best bang for your buck of any, or no pun intended there, but of any quarterback this season in terms of free agency, because these other guys are underperforming, and you've got to really hand it to Baker Mayfield. 20 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, 1 rushing touchdown, and he's got the clutch gene that Derek Carr does not have. He's the worst quarterback in the NFL right now inside the 10-yard line. And then Jimmy Garoppolo, obviously, benched in 5 weeks it took him to get rid of him. So luckily the Bucs ended up with not Derek Carr and not Jimmy Garoppolo, but specifically not the contract that the Saints signed Derek Carr for.
Yeah, no doubt. And then they're paying a quarterback on the bench, Jameis Winston, $8 million per year to sit the bench, not even start. And even whenever Derek's banged up, they don't even play him. So Baker Mayfield starting every game gets half the paycheck that Jameis Winston gets to ride the bench. Real quick, as we get into our NFL picks for this week, we'll start off with Thursday night's games. The Los Angeles Chargers take on the Las Vegas Raiders. Raiders 3-point favorites at home. Week 15.
Another barn burner right there. The Raiders 3-0 last week lost to the Vikings. A Raider fan that I know said it was the worst offensive performance that he's seen in his 40 years as a Raiders fan. I mean, the Raiders aren't looking good, but I think I'm going to take Las Vegas in that game to beat up the Chargers. It is a division game. There's a lot more on the line than playing the Minnesota Vikings. I think it was just one of those stinkers that every team has. Of course, they really stunk up that game with 0 points. But again, I'm going to take the Raiders in this game by 4 points.
Yeah, and on top of that, Justin Herbert banged up. He will not play in this one. So give me, of course, the Raiders to win. Now, Saturday, we do have 3 NFL games this Saturday as we do approach Christmas here in less than 2 weeks now at this point. The Minnesota Vikings play in Cincinnati to take on the Bengals. We don't know the status of Jamar Chase. The Bengals 3.5 point of Justin Jefferson. The Bengals 3.5 point favorites at home.
Yeah, I'm going to take the Bengals with that exact spread.
Yeah, I'll take the Bengals as well. Both teams here trying to pull away in that the North, one in the AFC North, one in the NFC North. I'll take the Bengals with the spread. The Steelers take on the Colts in Indy. The Colts 3-point home favorites on Saturday afternoon.
Yeah, I'm going to take the Colts in that one as well. The Steelers are still struggling. Of course, they don't have their starting quarterback, Kenny Pickett. Trubisky, I think, is going to be benched heading into this week. And it's going to be Mason Rudolph as their quarterback, who's been there for a while. Last time I think I remember him doing anything was getting hit over the head by Myles Garrett after reportedly saying a word, but that never came out. So we never got to know about that. But again, I think Rudolph will be the starter, and I think the Colts win that game pretty easily.
I'm going to go with the Steelers on the road. They need to win. Mike Tomlin's a winner. They're at 7-6. If they go 7-7, obviously he's at 500. They will win here on Saturday. Now the Denver Broncos take on the Lions, the lowly Lions, a team that has won a lot of games this year. They're 9-4, but they've looked really bad over the last couple of weeks, last 2 weeks. Broncos on the road are a 5-point underdog, however, against the Detroit Lions in Motown.
Yeah, Saturday game. I'm going to take the Lions in this one. I want the Broncos to win to really make that AFC West race pretty crazy, because the Broncos are 1 game behind the Chiefs, and you can see the Chiefs losing this week in that division would be tied, but I'm not going to take Denver in this game.
Let's talk right about now regarding the Buccaneers as they take on the Green Bay Packers there in Lambeau Field on Sunday. Packers 3.5 point favorites there. Bucs trying to win their 3rd straight game.
Yeah, Packers lost to Tommy DeVito, not Danny DeVito, but Tommy DeVito on Monday night. And I mean, I don't think that they're that good of a team. And it's going to come down to if you can pressure Jordan Love, if the Buccaneers can get pressure on Jordan Love, which is a tall task to ask apparently, because they barely got anything on Desmond Ridder against a complete backup offensive line for the Atlanta Falcons. But if they can get some pressure, if Vita Vea can play, I think they can win that game in Lambeau Field on Sunday and really take hold of this division. Because if you win that game, I think at least one of the teams between the Saints and Falcons will lose, and the Bucs will continue to have a little bit of a better lead in the NFC South race. So I'm going to take the Buccaneers in that game. Hopefully they continue to ride high. I don't like to play for picks, in my opinion. I'd much rather see you in the playoffs. Even if you fire your head coach, I'd much rather see the Bucs in the playoffs and have a high pick and end up with another Jameis Winston.
Yeah, no doubt. This is a tough game for me to pick. I'm not a homer by any means. Part of me says, hey, you know what? The Bucs just beat the Falcons, an NFC rival. The other part of me says, hey, the Falcons stink. The Bucs aren't very good. This division stinks, and that offensive line with the Atlanta Falcons was awful. You take away the Antoine Winfield strip sack safety, I think it's a whole different ball game. There were a couple of plays that went in the favor of the Bucs. If this was in Tampa, I'm taking the Bucs, but I'm going to take the Packers on the road. I don't know if they win by 4 points, but they will win. Kansas City at New England's the Patriots 10-point home dogs.
Yeah, I'm going to take Kansas City in that game by over 10 points.
Yeah, I think this is night and day. Some way, somehow, the Patriots won last week. I'm going to take the Chiefs on the road. They got to win big. Patrick Mahomes is ticked off. He'll do so. The Jets take on the Dolphins in Miami. The Dolphins, 8.5-point favorites.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Dolphins in that game. A bad loss for them last night, but give me the Dolphins.
I'm going to go with the Dolphins as well. I know Zach Wilson finally had a good coming out party playing well, but it's not enough here in this one against the Dolphins. The Chicago Bears take on the Browns in Cleveland. The Browns 3-point home favorites on Sunday.
I'll take Cleveland in that game. I like their defense. I like the team overall with Joe Flacco at the helm, so I'll take the Cleveland Browns.
I think Joe Flacco riding a little too high right now. He's going to get a slice of humble pie, grandmother's humble pie, as Justin Fields playing good football right now. I'm taking the Bears on the road to win this one. Houston Texans take on the Titans, and Tennessee, no status update right now on C.J. Stroud, but the Titans 2.5-point home favorites.
Yeah, the Titans beat the Miami Dolphins on Monday night, but I'm still going to take the Texans. I think Stroud will play in that game. Give me Houston by a couple of points. Give me even by 4.
Yeah, Houston has to bounce back with or without Stroud. They played terrible the other day. The Giants take on the Saints. Derek Carr's Saints. The Saints 4.5-point favorites over DeVito at home.
I'm going to take DeVito. Give me the Giants and DeVito. I think DeVito has a lot to play for. I think the Giants as a whole right now with Brian Daboll I think he won Coach of the Year last year. Now they're 5-8. I think they want to continue to win. Do they care about the high draft pick? I don't think it's that big of a deal to them. Give me Tommy DeVito and that Giants squad.
I'm going to take the Saints in this one. They have to win. I think that Derek Carr gets pulled. Jameis Winston comes in, does a little magic, actually plays good, and changes up the status there for the Saints. They win at home. Atlanta Falcons at Carolina Panthers. A real barn burner. Yeah, you're at the bar. You're drinking a lot of drinks for this game because this game is going to suck as the Panthers are the home team. They're 3-point underdogs. Sorry, Steven.
Yeah, 3 points I think is a little bit too little for that spread because the Panthers don't really score over 15 points in a game. Atlanta, in a loss, scored 25. I'm going to take the Falcons in that one by a touchdown.
San Francisco at Arizona. The Niners, 13.5-point road favorites over Kyler Murray's crew.
Yeah, San Fran might be the best team in the NFC heading into the playoffs. Give me San Francisco over Kyler Murray.
Yeah, I'm going to take San Fran to win the game, but I'm going to do a backdoor cover there by the Cardinals at home. The Commanders take on the Los Angeles Rams. The Rams, 6.5-point favorites at home.
Yeah, the Rams, I mean, the NFC West right now is completely wide open, aside from the San Francisco 49ers in terms of whoever gets second place in that division will be a wild card team. One of the 3 wild card teams. I think they're all 6 and 7 right now in the NFC wild card. Aside from the Vikings, who will fall and continue to fall as the season goes on, I don't think they're going to end up above 500. So it's a huge game for them. I'm going to take the NFC West team in this one.
Huge matchups here as we continue to talk about Week 15 of the NFL season, which, of course, kicks off Thursday night. We've got the Dallas Cowboys at Buffalo Bills Sunday evening as the Bills 2.5-point favorites. Dallas has been phenomenal as of late. Incredible at home, too, just coming off a huge win over Philly.
Yeah, I don't know if they should be the favorite in that game. Buffalo coming off a 3-point victory against the Chiefs. The Cowboys are a much better team. This Cowboys team seems to have the same moxie as the 2016 Cowboys that made it all the way to the divisional. Maybe the conference, if I'm remembering correctly. I can't recall completely, but again, that was Dak Prescott's rookie season. Now you've got Dak Prescott balling out this season in his best career season, and I'm going to take the Cowboys in that one by 3 points.
I'm going to take Buffalo at home. I think that they are able to finally get out of that weeping hole and try to win a game over a really good team there as they did against the Chiefs this past weekend. Baltimore Ravens at Jacksonville. The Jags, 3.5-point home underdogs to Baltimore.
Yeah, Baltimore's really good. They had a pretty good victory on Sunday against a good Rams team who's really came back from the depths this year after Stafford got injured. They were terrible. But Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp are balling out. Their running back is balling out as well. So I'm going to take the Ravens in this game regardless, but I think the Rams are a pretty good team. They're going to need the win. I think it'll be a close game though. Yeah,
I'm going to take the Jags in this one. It's Sunday Night Football. Give me the Jags to win at home over the Ravens. Now Monday night, rounding out Week 15, Spence. Now you got to get to work there with your new gig at Young Harris College. Proud of you for that. The Philadelphia Eagles take on the Seattle Seahawks there in Seattle. Seattle, a 3.5-point home dog.
Yeah, Eagles have been getting beat up on recently. They have the worst point differential in December so far. I'm going to give the Eagles the victory in this one, and they're going to win by a lot over Seattle.
Yeah, I'm going to give the Eagles a lot. I'm going to give them by at least 7-8 points on Sunday, or I should say Monday Night Football over Seattle there on the West Coast. As always, thank you guys for joining us. We'll be back next week. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, share this video. Easy as that. We will, of course, get back to all your horrible takes and share our takes too. Thanks for watching TCM Pod.